Welcome back to the third and final feature we're building here on Surf's Up, a mountain bike flow trail located in Steelville, Missouri that I've been building wooden features on for the past few months, like the steam bent drop and our inlaid bridge. In this video though, we'll be building essentially a mini ski jump for bikes.
Here's the kicker on this one. We have a week until opening day. I haven't even started this feature yet. I'm sitting in the little trench that Zach made for me to put my concrete posts right now, and we are just gonna cruise this week. So stick the timer now, because if we don't get this done, it's gonna be not great.
This build starts off like the others, but with an emphasis on time. So instead of peeling cedar and processing wood like we normally do, I needed to make sure I had my concrete bases poured within the first day. That's because it takes at least 24 to 48 hours to dry before I could start building on top of it. So I figured I'd get the concrete poured first thing and then process the wood while it's drying. With that in mind, I went ahead and got my sono tubes in place so we could start pouring. I find that using a jigsaw works really well to get these cut. You just plunge it in and rotate. And once we get the sono tubes in place, then it's time to mix up our concrete. This is probably my least favorite thing about building features. The bags are heavy, it's messy, and the whole process is just time consuming. But you can't get much better than concrete as your base, so it is a necessary evil. Probably the toughest thing about it is getting the right water consistency. Seems like even though you put the same amount of concrete in every time, it always takes a different amount of water. So I just aim for it not to be a wheelbarrow of soup. And of course, most of the time, I can't get my wheelbarrow very close to where I need it. So I end up running back and forth to fill everything up. And once our tube is filled up, I toss one of these L-shaped bolts into the middle and screed the concrete around it. This is a great example of mix that got too wet. This will definitely take a while to form up. Not a big deal though, because we need to process some wood. And of course, by process I mean chop them, delim them, and peel them. I won't get too into all this though, since we already went into it in the first episode. But I will say, I had to spend an entire day doing this. So that means we only have 4 days left until opening day. And this is all we had so far. Now, from an outsider's view, it probably looked like there was no way I was going to get this project done. But my favorite part about these builds is the woodworking side of things, so this is normally where we start to pick up the pace. To get our posts up a bit faster, I decided it would be good to prep all of the posts at once. So I lined them all up and drew out the width of the bases on the bottom of each log. Then I chopped them all down to size with the chainsaw and cleaned up their edges. And lastly, I set them all up on the concrete bases and got them screwed in.
So this shape is a little up in the air at the moment, so what I'm gonna do is temporarily put up some boards and just figure out where I like it and make sure that it looks right to me. Then after that we can mark everything and then put it on there permanently. But just to make sure I don't make any rash decisions and cut these posts too short, we'll do that first. And then once it's done, we can just chop it and then copy that exact shape on the opposite side. Should be pretty easy. Yeah, let's get to it.
But it wasn't easy. It never is, of course. That's because if I've got one weakness, it's eyeballing things. I almost always get measurements for my jumps before I make them so they can fit the trail better. But I had to rush to make this feature, so there wasn't any time to do that. It's not necessarily that I'm terrible at eyeballing stuff, it's just a lack of experience with it. So I had Zach come help me draw the line since he eyeballs dirt jumps all day long. And even though Zach is definitely an expert at eyeballing flow trail, getting this line drawn took us an entire half hour. That's because we're both kind of perfectionists, so it took us about 100 adjustments of the shape until we were both happy with it. Now, all that was left was to get this shape that we drew onto the actual boards I was going to use, which I did manage to do. The reason for transferring this shape onto other boards is because the boards I used to figure out what the shape were thinner scrap pieces. Also, all the boards can't be on one side of the post, so I stuck the middle one to the inside. After this, we ended up getting a full day of non-stop rain, so that took our count from 4 to 2 days left.
Okay, so to start off today, what I'm gonna do is copy that side onto this side. That's simple. We'll start off just by finding the height at each posts, and then I'll put my boards on the other side, and then we'll draw that same curve on those boards.
So my original plan here was to keep using my level like I had just done to transfer the curve shape from the other side over to this side. But I quickly realized this was not the most efficient way to go about things.
Okay, so I just realized that I think I can actually just take those boards, clamp them up to the other ones, draw that curve on them, cut it, and then stick them up on the other side and just level out the ends of them. That should work. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. We're gonna do it, and if it doesn't, we can try it another way.
When working with full round logs, I like to cut off this white area known as sapwood. This part of the log tends to rot pretty fast relative to the inner part, so if we get rid of that and attach our runners to the inner part, it's going to last much longer than if you left the sapwood on there. Plus, you're increasing the surface area that the board is fastening to, which is always better.
Okay, just to make sure everything's level enough, I'm just gonna take a board and push it along the top, make sure it doesn't snag on anything, and just kind of see if it leans to one side or the other at any spots, and then you just kind of trim it up if it is, but I think it should be pretty good. Let's test it out. Perfect, cool. All right, clean it up, throw some bigger screws into this guy, and we should be able to start doing some decking.
I'm sure you're wondering why I didn't just use the chalk line to make this line, but the curve was too deep for me to be able to snap it down that low, hence me drawing the lines over it instead. Now, this is where you might think to just call it done and just ride the feature, which we definitely will do at the end of this video. But my favorite part is always right when you think you're about to be finished, because that's where you can introduce extra details that make your feature stand out. Now, I did this a while back on a similar feature, but I wanted to do it on something public. Though, you'll set your circular saw at a slight angle, somewhere between 10 and 35 degrees, and cut off a few inches of your decking. Then, you'll take that exact piece you just cut off, flip it over, and attach it on the side with that angle you cut. Another thing I wanted to address was the small amount of flex I was getting in some of the boards. This was because our runners were spread a little too far apart. So to fix this, I copied the curve of the jump onto a board, cut it out, and attached it to the middle of all of the boards. This ties them all together so that if one board tries to flex, then they all have to flex, which means none of them will. Okay, so we actually finished. I ended up not filming a lot of the ending, like the finishing touches, because I was in such a rush to get it done, but I did get it done, and I just wanted to come back now and show you guys all of the stuff that I did right there at the end that I didn't get to film. So I added in the crossboards, and then in the midst of doing that, kind of added this little end piece here. I don't know. I like it. I just added this little section here and kind of turned it into a fish. Everything was offset a bit because since we rushed to make this feature, the measurements weren't quite right, so things got a little offset. So to accentuate that offsetness, I added a little fish. So I think it actually turned out kind of cool. I also added this end cap board, some rocks around the bases, sanded everything, and even doubled up on my runners for extra sturdiness. So I plan to actually show you guys someone riding this feature right now, just because I'm excited. But keep an eye out next Sunday, because that's when I'll be riding this whole trail with tons of amazing riders. There is so much stuff on this trail that you guys haven't seen that Zach built, and I cannot wait to show it to you. Anyway, before we ride this sucker, let me just say a quick thank you to Bikes Online for sponsoring this video. Black Friday is coming up, and Bikes Online has been dishing out some incredible deals all of this month because of it. And the deals aren't over. You need to click the link in my description right now because the Polygon Siskiyou T8, the bike I ride and love, is on sale for $550 off. This deal ends in a couple hours, so you gotta do it now. If you've been thinking about pulling the trigger, then right now is the time. But if that's not the bike for you, they have tons of other bikes on sale right now with just as insane of deals. And in a few hours, they will swap out this week's deals for next week's deals. So if you don't see something you like, then check back in a few hours and they'll have new stuff. Every single bike I own has come from Bikes Online, and they all have shipped to me in perfect condition with just a few minutes worth of work to do before I was up and riding. Click the link in my description to see all the incredible deals that Bikes Online has going on right now, or just head to bikesonline.com. But yeah, that's what we got. I love it. I think it turned out really freaking neat. So yeah, that's it. And I'll see you next week when we're riding everything. I'm definitely terrified. We'll get it done. See you next week.